right.
New Year. Happy 2020 to all our peeps in the Office Flash Friday land.
I got sick last week and I did not swap out the page, and I got I wouldn't say hate mail, but annoyance mail from people.
Oh no.
Yeah. So apologies for those who were expecting a show last week right after the New Year's holiday. I was battling whatever my children brought home, but we are back. And it's been a few weeks for you, Mr. Kidda. So,
yeah, I was actually last week. I was still using some vacation I was going to lose otherwise, lest I take it over the Christmas and New Year break. So
awesome. What do you got? What do you got this week?
I have a very average week. I have a couple things in the Power Platform, some SQL Azure AD, some Power BI Desktop, some cool stuff for those that like to monitor the Power BI activity with the activity log. What do you got?
Sweet. I have a little security, a little Teams. We're going to do a little Bell LaPadula security model. For those of you who are CISPs or ex-military people, who like all that stuff, we're going to talk a little about government security models and zero trust and kind of where we are on the journey for that.
Right.
And frontline workers, which actually got some amazing release functionality.
Are we talking about the stuff with Teams that I saw this week?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And a little December review for some, in case you missed it, kind of admin functionality. So that's what I got going on.
Yeah, I was excited to see Walkie-Talkie, so that's going to be fun.
Thunder stolen. Thanks, Todd.
No, I mean, dude, I didn't say anything about it. I just said
Walkie. You just said Teams and Walkie-Talkie.
I'm all right. Point taken. I apologize. All right. All right.
Go get it.
Shake it off the New Year cruft here. All right. So first thing I'm going to talk about in the Power Platform for really the Power Automate and for Power Apps is the general availability of the SQL Azure AD authentication for SQL DB. That's a mouthful. So basically what this allows is, if you look at the connector here, we've always had the option of connecting to SQL Server with like Windows and a SQL user, but now you can use Azure AD integrated authentication, right? So kind of full user push down of identity all the way to the database as it should be. So this is inside Power Automate for your flows, as well as for Power Apps. So this is great. You should be doing this wherever you can. So go check this out. So Doug, did you have any questions on this one? I know from a security perspective.
Oh no, it continues to allow the transparent pass of scoped, the true identity of the user without impersonation or any of the other stuff, all the way back to the source of records. It improves auditability, it improves security, it improves transparency, control. It's everything I love about security and nothing I don't.
Yep, awesome. This is good stuff. All right, so moving on to some Power BI stuff. I think I've got Power BI all the way down from here on out. This one's just a quick kind of FYI. We are deprecating, speaking of security, deprecating TLS 1.0 and 1.1 for Power BI. So get ready. June is right around the corner.
Can we just say that if you still have this problem, you need to get over it?
That's kind of, yeah, that's what this is saying. Like, look, June 2020, be ready.
You shouldn't be there anyway.
Yes. No, you should not.
I mean, that's like, your safety rail is wet paper towels tied together, and you're hoping it doesn't rain.
We're doing we're doing a little bit of shaming right now. I think that's okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's so bad that shaming is qualified.
I'm okay with shaming on MFA, and I'm okay with shaming on TLS 1.0.
Yes. So, FYI, June, be ready.
If a Raspberry Pi can crack your encryption, it's time to move on.
Hey, but I saw Mr. Robot that they can do that still. So that's yeah. Anyway.
TV so accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. The on-premises data gateway for December, as usual. The December mashup engines there from the desktop, as well as GA of Kerberos Space single sign-on for SAP BW on the message server and Oracle. So this is good stuff. We have I run into more and more people using Power BI against SAP at an enterprise level, so this is going to be definitely welcome for those people. Again, really a security theme here so far, so this is good stuff.
Can I add a small commercial to there? We're the best place to run SAP on Azure.
Like bar none, man.
I mean, SAP on Azure is amazing and enables all these data scenarios. When you talk about being able to do your own data models, I have my first customer piloting egressing 365 data through Azure Data Factory, like I've wanted to do forever, and doing their own machine learning models against the combined data estate of SAP and other signals around dynamics and the rest of the stuff. So they're drawing their own conclusional models and experimenting around that. So they're getting access to the raw data, not even through the Graph API. So amazing scenarios enabled around this stuff.
I'm not even sure you do that on purpose, but that was an amazing segue to this next one, which I am
did not.
So pumped about. I don't even, have you seen this one? Did you know that we did this?
I know, but I have no clue what this is.
So this is cool. So you've known for a long time what you were just talking about, because you and I have done a lot of work on this over the last couple of years around pulling data out of the unified audit log, right? For Office 365, putting it in your data lake, mashing it up with whether that's your SAP data, your Dynamics, your Salesforce, whatever the case may be, the Microsoft Graph.
Yes.
But that's proven, if you're a Power BI admin and you're not an O365 kind of level person, it's still been proven a little difficult. So what we've done is we've introduced the Power BI activity log. Notice it's not called the Power BI audit log or the audit, anything audit. We're calling it the Power BI activity log.
Because that's very different. Audit has a connotation around specific security compliance requirements, right? Activity is very different than auditing.
It is. However, with that said, it's basically, what are you going to get in the Power BI activity log? You're basically going to get all the Power BI things that are in the Office 365 audit log. Okay.
But they could extend it if they wanted to and show more stuff.
Yes, they could. Yes, they could.
All right.
But you no longer have to be a kind of O365 admin or have O365 level permissions to get this, right?
That's awesome. That is a huge blocker.
This is a big deal.
That's a huge blocker.
Right, because people are now at the maturity level where they've been like hungry for this data. And I've worked with several customers over the last 6 months or so that just have had issues getting access to. So this is awesome. You're going to now be able to, if you're a Power BI admin, and of course, if you're a global admin, you'll have access to this, but you'll have access via the REST API and via PowerShell. So this is really, really excited. Excited or exciting? I think it's exciting. I'm excited.
I'm excited, and it is exciting.
Yes, yes.
You know, some blog posts say we're excited to announce, and I'm not excited when I read it. I'm actually, well done.
That's fake news?
Okay. No, I'm saying up top, he said, we're excited to announce. And sometimes people say, we're excited to announce, but it's not.
Yeah, but we are excited. The royal we, yes.
Yeah, the royal we.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up my portion with the December 19 Power BI desktop update. So this is cool. The team did not slow down in December, as they never ever do. I've never seen them slow down. So let's just go through some of the highlights here. So many custom visuals this month, I couldn't believe it. I think we're finally, I love to see we're finally kind of bringing the theming to kind of maturity here, where you're able to manipulate and customize the current theme a little better rather than manipulating JSON files. Because
feels like a SharePoint theme designer. Looks kind of like it.
Yeah. So, but for the last couple of years, you've had to like go in and manipulate a JSON file on your machine and then like reintegrate it into the desktop file. It's kind of little wonky. But so now you're able to go in and edit the current theme inside Power BI Desktop, as well as let me scroll down, export the current theme. So you can use the desktop now to edit your theme and then export it out and share it. So this is good. So the theming is coming to maturity. Really exciting. This next one is actually one that I've wanted forever. Really kind of, you see the feature and you're kind of like, okay, that should have been there from the get-go, and maybe that's one of them, but it's there now. So this is good. So basically now, to date, if you wanted to include a link in a table, you've had to either include like the little link icon, like the two little chain links, or the HTTP URL. So finally, you're able to make it such that you have a piece of text that is a link, like we've been able to do on the web since I was a teenager.
So we got href support.
Basically. So this is,
nice.
The people that have done it the other way are now excited at this. I have a couple reports to actually go update to do this as well. So this is good. I'm happy with this one.
Do you know, does it process through safe links at all? It probably does not.
My guess is no. Actually, I mean, this screenshot right here.
Excel and everything else is integrated to SafeLinks. I don't know if Power BI's link launcher is integrated into SafeLink service or not.
You know, that's a good question. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I mean, I'm just looking at this screenshot right here where it's hovering.
It doesn't look, but it could be. I mean, they can do however they want.
It could be. That would be a good ideas request for Power BI. But I like that idea. That's a good idea, Doug. So some more visual formatting settings for the KPI, which is already pretty feature rich. I love how we highlight the new decomposition tree formatting by showing that you can do Comic Sans and purple. So I don't know, that was a questionable choice, but you know, so you can put Comic Sans in your decomp tree if you so choose. More enhancements coming to the ribbon. So for those that spend a lot of time working in Power BI desktop, you actually do spend quite a bit of time kind of managing your screen real estate, because sometimes you need to be tooling around with things in the tool panes, and sometimes you want more real estate for your canvas. So now you can turn on and off the filters pane inside the new ribbon. So you still have to enable the new ribbon as a preview feature, but once you have, you can now toggle your filter pane, which is nice. I love that we're already enhancing the automatic page refresh. Again, I talked about this, I think, the previous Power BI desktop release a month or two back, where now if you have a direct query source, say against SQL Server, you can refresh your page like once a second, once a minute, to kind of keep that going. So now we're actually showing some diagnostics. So you know, what's the interval here? What's the actual rate? When's the last time it was refreshed? So you can get some kind of more information about your page. And I'm actually already leveraging this for some things at the MTC here in St. Louis. So this is good stuff.
Nice.
This next one is really cool. So you've the ability to do kind of quick insights and things like explain the increase, explain the decrease inside of Power BI. I've been there for a long time. However, for performance reasons, often those insights are run with a subset of the data. So now you're able to enhance. So once you've kind of seen some of those insights, you're able to go back and say, hey, actually use more of the data to get a more accurate read on those insights. So this is really good. Beyond those very quick insights into something a little more kind of robust. A new DAX function. That's always exciting to see what quarter a date lives within. And let me kind of hit some of the highlights here. A bunch of new custom visuals. I'm not going to go through all these. The bullet chart is really cool. I love bullet charts. Gantt chart. Let me scroll. Look at all these new custom visuals to get down to I want to get down to the connectors. Okay, here we go. This one is big. People are moving to ADLS, Azure Data Lake Store Gen 2, or Data Lake architectures in droves these days. I've been talking to people about data lake architecture for, I feel like, my whole career, but it's really only been the last couple years. But people
kind of have to go to Gen 2? Isn't that a
Gen 2 is the way to go? I mean,
there's not yet a compelling event, but there is like logically, but not a forcing function, or is there a forcing function?
And most people are going to Gen 2 from nothing. Right?
I haven't heard anybody not using it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no. But now we finally have the Power BI connector to Gen 2.
I had heard that that we did not have that I was aware of.
Yeah. So this is good stuff. We have a connector to the Power Platform data flows, which is differentiate between the Power BI data flows. So if you guys have used the Power Platform, like in Flow or in Power Apps, to create your data flows, you can now connect to those inside of Power BI Desktop, which is great. If you're using at scale, which is like a big data analysis services type thing, that's now GA. Azure Time Series Insights connector. Here's some more connectors, and some template apps for things like customer service analytics for Dynamics 365, Microsoft Forms Pro for customer service. So big month for things like custom visuals, connectors, and app templates. So this is really cool. Huh. So that's all I got, Doug.
That's all, huh?
That's all I've got.
All right.
I'm gonna take a breath and let you talk now.
Well, that was half the show, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
I got a little different set of things. So I'm starting out with to-do, because hey, Happy New Year. You want to stay on top of your to-dos, right? I mean, you want to try anyway.
I do. I want
to. So we announced, and this is where before the show, I'm still on Android, and Todd has been enjoying some leading edge features coming from us on iOS, and so he was mocking me for
I wouldn't say mocking, but
lightly mocking. For and I'm looking forward to next year's dual screen Android phone that we're going to ship, because I'm sort of hanging tight because I want to see what that device is like before I decide. The good news is, because we all use the cloud, we can just flip back and forth, and it doesn't. Yep. It's really super easy. So that every couple of years I can just get annoyed by whatever device I have and In a few minutes, I'm over because the whole suite runs anywhere. In this particular case, though, a whole bunch of Siri task stuff. So you can do the Hey Siri, add a task for this, that, or the other thing, and then you can also do the open lists stuff, like the kind of list navigation on top of it, which is really pretty slick. And then the shortcut to home screen or widget, and then the location stuff. And so you can do personal automation based on location. Okay. So when I get to the grocery store, open the grocery list. When I get to Microsoft headquarters, open my list.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to get smarter.
I found that with the proliferation of these kind of personal assistant devices that really, started with, the one that we're all familiar with that's been in my house for a couple of years, I find that I actually now use Siri differently. I use it more. I'm not going to say it because my phone's sitting next to me, but it'll activate. But the wake word for Siri, I'll use that all the time when it's just sitting on my desk. It's actually quite nice.
Yeah, and I do the same thing for my plethora of things, and I don't have a problem having multiple ones with different wake words. I don't find that inconvenient at all.
It's fine.
I find the addressability of my personal device versus my home ecosystem to be quite handy.
Yep. Totally.
But I've extended that fabric into my car now, so I can address all those things, which is why I've been starting to do a little development against the crossover and voice instruction sets. You'd started that a while back, but I'm sort of several years ago when you were here in Mini. But I've started to explore that space myself because I'm looking to do more advanced automations. Okay, so the To-Do iOS stuff, check it out, start using it. If you have not used To-Do and the common task envelope that we showcased like a month and a half ago, oh my gosh. And we're going to cover that again a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go over to security for a brief moment. Probably not a brief moment. It's me. I don't think I can do security briefly.
I wasn't going to, but
yeah, to be fair, this is an article I think you should talk about a zero trust model. So we talk about a zero trust model. This is particularly targeting and supporting government or complicated regulatory access scenarios. And essentially it says you have to have explicit verification of every access request. Mm-hmm. You have to have least privileged or just-in-time risk adaptive access control policies. Now, you know how long I've been hammering on RADAC. Since General Owens did his finding as part of the NIST 800 specifications, there's this finding that said we used to have static access control. Todd has access to this. Doug has access to this. Emily has access to this, right? All of us who are involved in the show, Brad, we all have specific access to each thing. Well, that got complicated the more people you had, so along came groups, right? So then we were essentially doing, a group-based access control. And then people said, well, groups are too limiting, so you get made members of thousands of groups. So Todd, instead, we're going to go to attributes, right? Todd has the title manager or the job level of, kernel, and so you get access to these things. Attribute-based access control, aka ABAC. And then there was a combination of data labeling where you combine those things together and go policy-based access control. So this thing has a level of this and you've got a level of that. That was something called the Bell-LaPadula security model, which the military has used for a long time, where it says essentially that you as a military officer, you cannot read above your security level and you cannot write below it. So you can't accidentally breach information. So it's all these complicated access models that you have to be able to comply with. And they all exist for purposes, right? And so if you're holistically in security, these things matter. And so essentially, we are striving to match those models as closely as possible with the patterns and capabilities of cloud technologies. I don't like the third point, which is assume breach mentality. I think assume compromise, because breach now has assumed a legal connotation in the industry where you have breach notification requirements. But an incident or an event might not meet the standard of a breach. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
So I would say assume attack, assume compromise. I get
just
what they're saying.
Of your verbiage.
I am a little more academically careful of verbiage around breach, because whenever you hear a breach, then there's this legal burden around the concept of breach that doesn't necessarily have. And I would prefer we paid attention to the signals prior to achieving breach. Now, are you going to stop every breach? Probably not. Right? But you can sandbox them, you can remediate them, you can make them small enough where they're not impactful. And so you can do a lot of stuff. And so this really talks about the breakdown of a zero trust model and how the efforts and things we're doing in order to head towards zero trust. and what we support and how we work around it, things like FIDO and all the rest of the stuff. So, and then we have a whole series on what you can do and what Microsoft technologies enable zero trust scenarios that you'd want to do. So it's a really good security article. So Happy New Year. You didn't think I was going to get away with a security article. Here it is. So let's start talking about this. Now, a lot of these things are targeting M365 usage for specific scenarios, but the lessons apply as far as they can, in some cases comprehensively, in some cases partially, to other SaaS solutions, other access control scenarios. Because if you think of like Azure AD Application Proxy, Microsoft Cloud App Security, it's cloud proxy functionality. We have a holistic, and Windows Virtual Desktop, we have a whole holistic defense framework around all this stuff. And the more you get to zero trust, the less surface area you have to attack.
So would you largely be recommending this strictly for our government customers, or does this?
No, I think everyone should look at this.
Okay. All right.
I think that look, there's compliance for the things you have to do, right? And this is the effort by other people to say this is reasonable, and by government and regulatory entities. And by the way, right now, if you're a global organization, there are approximately 750 major regulatory bodies, and they are promulgating rules or findings at a rate of approximately 200 per day.
Okay, that's a lot.
Just small interpretations and everything else. So you got to kind of keep on top of this. Now, which ones apply to you? Not all of them, obviously, right? Or it might be 200 per week, but it's a lot, right? There's a tremendous volume coming out from these people, and you have to decide. But that's compliancy, right? That's other people saying, after legislative interpretation, a bunch of lobbying, rules come down. They say, Todd, you have to do these three things, right? This is what it means to have a class whatever driver's license. That's great. That doesn't make you a safe driver, right? They've attempted to put this into regulatory frameworks. So some of these initiatives around zero trust, there are, to be sure, regulatory burdens around NIST and frameworks like FICAM and everything else that speak to best practices and recommendations. But this foundational concept of zero trust is one that anyone can embrace. And while it has some regulatory complements, meaning you'll be able to achieve regulatory requirements by doing it, its core value proposition is that you are reducing your surface area, hopefully without impeding productivity.
Yep. You've actually practically improved your experience in operation.
Correct. And along the way, you will probably get a whole bunch of easier regulatory compliance bucket because you've reduced your surface of things. Right. When someone asks you, Todd, how are you handling this? It can't be done.
Right.
And how are you doing that? Like this. Boom, you move on, right? So anyway, remember, meeting regulatory burdens, we can do it through technical controls. We can do it through human controls, right? And coaching. But some things we have to implement technical controls on, some we don't. So it all depends on your culture and where you want to go. So this is a really interesting one. I kind of liked it from its scoping and review. So if you're new to this concept, I think that the concepts behind this apply to anyone. Although, yes, it is Gov focused because they have some of the highest burden based on ruling.
I'm going to commit to reading that myself, Doug. That's good.
Yeah, and some of the nested stuff is really good. And I also tossed in the Bell LaPadula model for those who haven't done star access, star property access and stuff. So if you're so inclined to go read the academic half of Doug's World, well, welcome to the Bell LaPadula security architecture. Just get your brain thinking about control frameworks and how they apply in the real world. Kind of fun stuff.
Let's say Bell LaPadula sounds like something in my brain.
It might be. I don't know.
My Bell LaPadula's broken.
My wife's the nurse. She'd have to tell me. Okay, so then we had, let's shift away from security and go towards fun stuff. And you were talking about this one, right? This is awesome. So they released these first line worker capabilities. And I know that not everybody has these or you're not focused on this, but you should, because you have this class of worker in your enterprise. And at first they were second class citizens, and then they started to move in. Now there's some premium investment going into experiences around these first line workers. Yes. So there's some cool little videos in this. But first up, Walkie-Talkie and Teams. Boom. That's cool. Right?
Yeah, I can't wait to try this.
A hot button Walkie-Talkie and
Teams.
Teams.
Have you been able to try this yet or no?
I have.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it. All right.
Yeah, it's super awesome, right? On top of it. Next up, tasks, which we were talking about. Targeting, publishing, and reporting. So you do task management across your front line, like show up for your shift, you got these 4 things you got to get done, you get the roll-up dashboard, boom, task management integration on top of it. Workforce management integrations with Kronos, JDA, the Shifts API, and the SDK. Now, I have tried to use this before, right? Back in the old days when we had Staff Hub, this API is getting sharp. So if you have not looked at this thing, you really should. Think about its integration that you can just call that API from within Flow, right? And you can tie it in with Power App stuff. So you should really look at this one as our mind the gap, the philosophy behind our show, right? There's a GUI and API and a power something for it. Man, this one's gotten cool on top of it. The JDA connector for shifts is open source and it's out on Git.
That's
so
cool.
That's awesome. So if you really want to mess around with that one, so you can do that. Next up, identity.
This one was, I was like really surprised by this one.
You shouldn't be, but why?
Well, SMS sign-in, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised.
You were pleasantly surprised. I was wondering if you were concerned about it. Now, the security person in me goes, okay, technically speaking, SMS is not a trusted security. So some organizations will not be able to use this based on, big P policy as opposed to technical policy, small p. But if your big P business policy supports, here you go. If you just have people running around, lightweight people who are only going to be occasional workers, or they're not going to get access to a ton of super sensitive information, and you want to go through your IT acceptable use policy and let people consent to SMS sign-in, and there you go. So there's the sign-in experience on top of it, and you're in on top of it. They also did a huge set of improvements around shared device experiences. So you get shared device sign up.
Yep.
Very nice. I mean, yes. I don't know what to say. Yes, right? Really cleaning up the login, log out sequence, some huge progress on top of that. Now, maybe some of you are like, well, it didn't have that before. No, it did not elegantly, right? So we got a lot more stuff.
Do you see this, just to throw one out, do you see this potentially being useful in healthcare, or do you think everywhere? Yes.
Okay. Yep. I got that. There's it's interesting too. There's an idea out there, and I can see if I can find it and tweet it so people can upvote it. You ever have those volunteer events you do? Like the company events where you have volunteering and you're doing so some of my customers were using Staff Hub for that before. They're having people sign up and you're assigned to cover for this window for school events and projects. And so I wonder if that's still Shifts is still sort of hybrid usable for those times when you need to treat everyone in your company like they're shift workers.
Yep.
Which could be emergency coverage zones, those things. So I'm wondering how flexible this is, for lack of a better term, for disaster or event management. Can you selectively use it for that and sort of split a knowledge worker? I don't know, but I am going to dig back in because we were doing that stuff back in the old Staff Hub day.
Right.
And so I wonder where it could, a lot of custom people, you don't have to deploy yet another solution. One time we built up a custom Power App for someone to do that, but if this could use it, that'd be pretty smooth, right?
Oh,
so you kind of have that whole, I don't care if it's, in a company picnic and, who's grilling when or whatever it is. There's all sorts of stuff like that you got to do. Okay, off shift access controls. All right, so you're off shift, meaning you're not currently punched in. See the above Kronos integration, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it says, hey, you're off shift, and here's when it is your next one, right? It says, hey, you have access to the Shifts app only, which essentially means you can see when you're working, and you could maybe trade schedules with people, but you're not allowed to go in and see all the collaboration tools and everything else.
Yep. So would you normally implement this way, or could you implement this more at the kind of directory, like Azure Active Directory level?
This would be where you should do it.
Okay, got it.
Yep, this is the good one on top of it. All right, delegated user management, SAP SuccessFactors integration on top of it. So pretty awesome. I love that stuff on top of it. So next up, we got two more before we get out of here in the next minute or two. There's a decent protecting information, which really just reviews the stuff we've done before, information barriers, but they sort of put it nice mechanics video out. So I thought if you haven't looked at all the information barrier stuff and everything else, that would be a good thing to get out there. And then finally, we had the December roll up. Now we've covered the vast majority of those things. On top of it. However, there was the chat stuff that we didn't necessarily cover, the one-to-one chat outside the organization. And so people in Teams only mode can now have the same chat interface, right? For external comms, pretty cool. We went through calling a meeting, so I'm not going to do much on top of that one. But if you look down, there was pretty cool one, meeting roles. So we finally have whether people are Okay, just enough said. Meeting
Yes.
roles are there, so you have that. The contact center APIs got released, so that's all my whole background. The company I created used to do UCMA speech development, so I'm like a UCMA coder from the day. So I got to admit, I don't have the time right now, but I cracked open the dev presentation on the comms APIs and the media flow controls. It's looking pretty good, Todd.
Was there a session on this at Ignite or something?
There was, and I
Okay.
found the session on top of it. So the link to it is in this one. So if you come down, you'll see the connected contact center solution that takes you to the BRK session from Ignite Deck.
Awesome.
And so I don't have time right now. I probably won't until February, because if I take on another project, I'm just going to fall over. But oh man, I was tempted, because that's my old world. And we finally have cloud-centric speech APIs that are back.
Right.
And so I am totally jazzed on top of that to see where we're going to do. And then don't forget the one, in case you missed it, the final one was some new policies on top of it. However, the big one in there is that Teams is now coming to Office 365 Pro Plus deployments of the semi-annual channel. So unified deployment of the Teams client along with 365 Pro Plus.
Killer.
It's 11:01.
Awesome.
That was an Office Flash Friday. First
one of the 2020. Looking forward to a bunch more. So
same here. You all take care of yourselves. We will be back next week with some fun stuff. I'm going to be diving in on Microsoft Endpoint Manager a little next week. Ooh. I did a series of engagement stuff on that over the last month or so. So we're going to crack that sucker open again. Awesome. Take a look at MEM.
Cool, man. All right. Well, you have a good weekend. I hope everyone else does as well.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
See ya.